We got an exciting episode today for Sacred You. Well, I'm really excited about it. So I'll give you a little bit of an explanation. I've got Sarah Wilder with me today, who's very graciously agreed to come on and talk about this. It is 3 years this month that my second Sarah book was published. And before I published it as a print book, I published it like a few weeks in March as a Kindle book before I kind of launched it because I knew that it can be a bit of an issue launching things on Kindle. Amazon can suddenly say, no, we don't like it. So I got it all ready. And then when I got the email to say it had gone live, I just noticed the date and the time. And I don't know why, but I suddenly thought, oh my God, that's its birthday. And I kept the email and I also did its astrology chart. I was like, oh, because it's been born. Anyway, I didn't do anything else with it. And then I got it out about a month ago and I shared it on the Sarah Facebook group. And I just got the most amazing response. And so, yeah, we're here to talk about that today. So, welcome, Sarah. Thanks for being here.
You. Yeah, it definitely piqued my interest when I saw you share it. And I was like, oh, this is the kind of thing I do. Looking at launch dates and things.
Yeah, really, really. So I'm not the only because I mean I don't know if I've even heard anybody else doing that.
I think there's two ways of thinking about it. People who are very much like, you have to be a literal person to have a birth chart. And then there's the other people that will look at significant dates. And this is also even in like global dates as well. They'll look at the chart of certain things that are happening in the sky at that time of that thing happening. And that's still telling us a lot about, the times too, right? So why can't we do it for something that we're birthing into the world, like a creation? Yeah, so lots of people do like launches of their businesses. So they have a business chart. I have a business chart for my business, and she's kind of, got this separate life force to myself. Um, and yeah, obviously products and different things that feels like
Mm.
oh my God, this was a big late, like laborious process, birthing journey, creation journey. And now it's out in the world, and I no longer have control on, what happens with it after. So yeah, some people will just be like, no, it's not a thing. Some hardcore astrologers like, don't, we don't do that.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, loads of people that I know do that kind of thing. So yes, you
Yeah,
are just
yeah.
that side of things.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I'm certainly not an expert in astrology. I've had some really good like natal charts and things done over the years and when I look at them because I'm a channel, I can like feel all the energy coming through, but I definitely do not have the right kind of makeup to sit and do charts and things like that. I just like, yeah, I just couldn't, I couldn't do that. So it's really great. It's really great to talk to you today. I mean, where do you want to start with this?
Um, I will say that I think that like most people are channeling astrology without knowing the system, like in a learned way, because the planets speak through us. Um, and I have, some of the greatest healers and intuitives and that kind of thing that I know, they already speak it. Like they'll say something to me, I'm like, do you know that this transit's happening? And da 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 da. And they're like, holy shit. Like they literally speak that same thing, but they're like, I don't look at that thing. Like that's not my language. I'm like, well, you're already speaking it. So you likely already do that. Naturally, you don't need to go and learn astrology.
That's
You
good.
already. So to start, let's have a look at the astrology because that's kind of where we started.
Mm.
Um, and I will see if I can share. So I work with a slightly different system to the one that you posted, the housing systems. Everyone, every astrologer uses different housing systems. I've just gone with whole signs because it's one of the easier ones to look at. And it's just like really nice, clean house sizes.
Mm.
But essentially, this is your book's chart. And yeah, so I think in the picture on your profile, you can see it's slightly different. There's that kind of like kite shape on there.
Yeah.
That's still in this chart. It's just slightly shifted, and then it's got some other
You've got some
kind of
more things in there as well.
extra
Yeah, yeah,
line.
yeah.
But essentially, this is the breakdown of the chart from when you birthed the book. So the sun sign is in Pisces. So it's a Pisces book. And Pisces, the archetype, is the last archetype of the astrology wheel. So it's kind of like the accumulation of every archetype's kind of journey. And it's the last kind of spiritual element of the human journey. So it's bringing the spirit into the body and the wisdom of the, every step of the way, and being the 12th sign before it kind of starts over again. So it's really about, like, Pisces is really doesn't want to be on the physical plane. Like their best work doesn't happen on the physical. It's all about the unknown, the ether, the spirit, and tapping into the, what's beyond here, what's
Mm.
beyond our mundane reality. So being, pretty heavy in Pisces energy, you can see you've got the sun there, the Mercury's in Pisces, which again, Mercury is the communication piece. So it's the voice of that book is very Piscean. I mean, it's literally like a channeled book. So like story checks out, right? It's like it's spoken like channeling this spirit. Um, and then we've got Jupiter in Pisces. So Jupiter's all about expansion. And it's also like the cosmic law. So that it's like set, the book's law is set in um yeah, the cosmos rather than maybe like physical reality laws. Um and Neptune in Pisces too. So that what we having four of these planets in Pisces is a stellium. And so it just means that she's really coded with Piscean energy. Um, Interestingly enough, then the next kind of dominant sign is Aquarius.
Yeah.
So we've got Venus, Mars, and Saturn. So maybe considered another stellium. And to me, that's kind of like, when it was birthed in 2022, it was really this pivotal moment where a lot of intuitive types were really tuning into, like, I think we're leaving the Piscean age and we're 100% in Aquarian energy now. Like obviously there's a transitional point over, maybe hundreds of years, but we really could feel that Aquarian energy coming online more. And so she's kind of got this bridging energy, and that really ties in beautifully with her sun sign being at 27 degrees. It's almost towards the very end of that sign, which means it's completed a whole journey and it's ready for the next. And then the other interesting thing was she had Pluto in Capricorn. So Pluto is the planet of transformation. It's life, death. It's the full cycles, and it takes 200 and something years, 48 I think it is, to go through a full journey of the zodiac wheel. And so we'll never have Pluto and Capricorn in our lifetimes again. It takes between 15 and 20 years for Pluto to go through a sign. So it's really slow transformational energy. And this book was birthed right at the end of the Pluto in Capricorn kind of journey that we had been on. And to me, Pluto at that more anaretic degree, so 29 is the last degree, and then it flips into 1. So it's really at that precipice. The last few years, basically since she's been out in the world, has been this really challenging energy for a lot of people of feeling like there's been a big ending to something that we can't have back. We're not going to go back to what things were before, and especially, post-COVID and all that kind of thing. Like life just feels really different now. And we're kind of in that grieving, like of letting that old part of us go, and can feel this like new thing, but it's not quite here. It's very liminal again. And having Pluto in Capricorn, to me, it's like anyone born with that kind of placement, they're here to usher in, I guess, the new way that we structure the world. So Capricorn's really like it's a cardinal earth sign. It's really about like I don't know, I always associate it with like trade and capitalism. You know, it's building, it's progression, it's sticking to the rules, it's really working hard to climb the ladder. It's that kind of energy. So, I mean, I don't know about how you feel, Rachel, but for me, I really felt like I don't want to do that,
Mm,
especially now, especially, you know, in the last few years. I
mm,
really felt like that is not sustainable, for one, for
mm,
the earth, the way that we're going. You know, we keep taking and taking and building and building. And being kind of selfishly focused and tapped into the old way we do things. You know, it doesn't work anymore. There's no progression in that.
mm,
There's no evolution in that. So being, you know, encoded with Pluto and Capricorn, she really is the voice of that moment. You know, she really is saying like, hey, this old way of doing life doesn't work. We've come full circle now. And capitalism is, you know, we're late stage capitalism. It's not the way forward. It's not the system that we should, or the structural system, the time structure, because Saturn's really about time and structure and foundation. It's not really a solid foundation anymore. It could crumble at any moment, you know.
yeah, because that's, I mean, some people might say capitalism is still working, but actually, if we look at the effects it's had on the world of putting profit first, and
Yeah.
we are in ecological crisis, the oceans are poisoned and full of plastic, and so are we, and so on. So actually, it has already collapsed, but we're so close to it that it's
Frost.
hard for us to take in the full impact of just what is going on.
And Pluto teaches us long term. This is not a like overnight transformation. This is like whoever was born with that Pluto placement, you know, when they're of age, when they're older, will go, holy shit, it is so different here. Or we brought this whole different change. Like we couldn't keep up with that model. So it's not in our specific lifetime, but we get a little taste of it. We can start to see, you know, some of the cracks showing. Um, and like we're using, I think it's 1.7 Earth's worth of resources every year. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
working for now, but like at what cost? So yeah, it's essentially saying like we've peaked you know, as a society in that way of doing things in the industrial way. And now we've just moved into Pluto in Aquarius. So since the birth of the book. And so we're now on this journey through Pluto in Aquarius, which is really going to teach us a lot about things like technology. You know, I always associate Aquarius with new technologies, rebellion, humanity focused things. It's an air sign. So again, it's still quite, you know, it'll be a bit more cerebral rather than material like the Capricorn energy. So it's really going to be a whole other kettle of fish, you know, the next, I think it's 18 years or something, while Pluto is in Aquarius. And that's, yeah, again, we don't really see it until it's past. So we won't fully understand what Pluto taught us in Capricorn, you know, until years after when you know, we start to come out of it because it's such a big transit. So yeah, she's really captured that like essence of the new earth, you know, and the changes that she wants to see and feels already and
Mm.
embodies already. What else is interesting? What stood out to you when you looked at the chart?
So the things that stood out to me are things that I've been working with recently. I did like a couple of months course, like working with my own chart with Jocelyn from Sacred Planet. And there were certain things that I'd been kind of realizing, and then I saw parallels here, and I thought it was really, really interesting that the moon of this book is in Virgo
Yeah.
because a couple of years, well, I don't know how many years ago it was now, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I did a whole year length course. It was really, really intense, teaching a group of people to be Earth priestesses of Sarah.
Literally Virgo energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, when I saw that moon in Virgo, and there's all these kind of like direct lines going to it, it was almost like everything was kind of pointing
Yes.
towards that. And I thought that was such Sarah
Yeah.
energy, like one of the aspects that she's really come here to teach us how to be kind of earth priests and priestesses ourselves, and then another thing which kind of ties into that was that the North Node of this book is in Taurus. And I mean, it's been really interesting, and this is still a journey that I'm really, really on. But for a few years now, I've been working with something I call Garden of Eden matrix, which has been spontaneously appearing in Earth places, and it
Mhm.
kind of holds that kind of Taurus energy in its
Yeah.
just its bestness, in its like highest like gorgeousness of like this is how it can be on the Earth, and this is kind of the plan. And then there it is. It's like that North Node was in Taurus, and I can see Uranus is in Taurus as well. Look at it, and I was so excited. It's it's like, I bring these things through, I channel these things, and then it takes me a few years to work out what they
Great.
actually
Yeah.
mean, you know?
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the moon, that stood out to me actually as well, because yeah, the Earth Priestess energy, of course. Um, but interestingly, it's in the ninth house up here. And she's got a lot of focus on the kind of behind the scenes personal life placements, but the moon is her work. It's so close to her midheaven, or at least like the cusp of the 10th house there, which is really the work she's here to do. So it's very lunar led. And it actually, you birthed it on a Virgo full moon. Did you know it was the full moon?
I found out afterwards. Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
mean to because like you give it into Kindle and then it's up to
Yeah,
them,
they
sort of how
do.
long, like many hours they take, days they take to publish it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a full moon, which is just also chef's kiss. But having this up here, and you look at these lines, so this is some of the comments on the thread about the kite kind of shape. It's the anchor of the kite. So this is what's anchoring everything that she's here to do, and then it shoots off into these other directions, which are, linked to her sun sign, but the full kind of cluster here, Piscean cluster of planets. It's got her North Node in Taurus, of course, and then it's got her ascendant and Pluto, which we just talked about. So this is all the Earth sign stuff. This is an Earth kind of kite. So very earth heavy in earth element heavy in her chart. Also having obviously a Pisces stellium is the water element as well, but for me it kind of really feels more earthy or anchored in earth, and then the water is obviously more tapped in emotionally and spiritually, but obviously the feminine arts as well. um
Yeah, yeah. And it just makes total sense to me because like I see Sarah as being here to help us move into a higher consciousness of oneness, whilst
yeah.
at the same time being fully embodied on the
Yes.
earth, like fully here, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, so she's got a lot of this like placements in the part where she's figuring out, who she is in this body, and then what
Yeah.
what she's here to bring, and that's the priestess energy. Um, Also, the ninth house is the house of publishing.
Oh,
Yeah. So you had a full moon in the ninth house of publishing. So here we go again. Um, And it's also the house of like higher knowledge. So it's teaching, it's learning, it's about being connected to different schools of thought and ways of life. And so, it's also very multicultural energy as well. The ninth house is about international travel and accumulating different cultural appreciation and understanding and spiritual knowledge and philosophies and all that kind of thing. And that oneness piece really speaks to me there, because it's kind of like, seeing that we're all connected and we just have these slightly different interpretations of the one thing. So yeah, I love that I think that moon sign really is like the anchor for, this whole book, of course, and of her energy. The other thing too with that Pluto um degree is that her ascendant is also there. So Pluto on her ascendant really means that like this book is here to transform. It's here to transform. And the thing that kind of stands out to me when you have Pluto on your ascendant is like you are never going to be the same in a lifetime. You change so much. And so she might have many forms. She might evolve. Your writing and the way that she speaks to you and her mission will evolve and change. Um, she'll never be spruiking the same message.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. And that is so true. Like since I started channeling her like nearly 20 years ago now, like the
Yeah.
tone and the energy that's coming through, it's completely changed, but it's all her. And and of course I'm just one channel, so I'm just channeling like my sort of bit of her anyway. But I mean, she is just so vast, and sometimes I think, God, am I just making this all up that she's this and she's this and she's this, but she really is. What can I do?
You can't, yeah. Well, you can, and like, if you even read the book, it's like there's 1,000 books in the book.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, I want to know way more about this little piece that she's just dropped in here.
yeah.
So there's just oceans of knowledge, and there's like portals of things that you could just, or, continuously expand on. Having this degree too, there's a sense of urgency about it. So you might have really been feeling like that was the time to get to birth it and just get it out there. Like it was, how fast did it come through for you, the book?
Well, yeah, I mean, I really did feel like that. I mean, I think it took me about a year to get it all together. And it was stuff that some of it I'd had for a long time. Other bits was just like, quite recent. But I just needed to get it out. And because I was really aware that when I published it, it could have done with a bit more editing. And there's a few like mistakes, graphical mistakes in there, but I was just like, I've just had to, I just
Pressure.
had to, like it's like when you're pregnant and you have to give birth when you have to give birth. You don't really get to choose the time, and then if you're not ready, then you just have to go. If you're on in the car on the way to the hospital, then you're in the car on the way to the hospital giving birth. I did have that. I really did have that urgency. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like having the her ascendant on that 29 degree, the anaretic degree, is really like it's old soul energy. It's been here a million times over. It's like anyone that has like strong 29-degree placements is anaretic. It's very karmic, but it's also like a full cycle. So it's like, this is one of her last um kind of rounds here in this form to really
Oh.
get all of us, like whatever she's doing in this lifetime with us is really important. It's like her last ditch attempt to like get things changing. Um, yeah, so she might evolve and change or not be needed down the track, who knows? But
Wow, that is so interesting.
yeah.
Just trying to remember her name. I'll put it in the show notes. But another Australian woman that I know, Chloe, she
Mhm.
is very interested in the material that she brings through. A very clear channel, and she said to me that she felt Sarah was going to be like the next Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
just like, I could just see, because Sarah's so New Earth, I could just see her. And, and I've read this in like Native American Indian
Yeah.
wisdom that when we evolve, we can actually become like the spirit of a planet. And I was just
That's
like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
I just got chills. Yeah. And
Yeah.
maybe this is her last like human-esque form before she just leaves and yeah, embodies the whole planet, and is the spirit of the whole planet.
Woo.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
It's an earth, like, yeah, it's in an earth sign there. So yeah, makes sense to me. Actually, the okay, so let's flip to human design because that's another system that I am
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
obsessed with.
Can I just
Um,
ask you one thing before you
yeah, yeah,
do
yeah,
that?
yeah.
What sign is the Lilith in for this book? Because I'm really interested in
Gemini,
Lilith.
Gemini.
Gemini. Okay.
The sixth house, which is our daily life. So, her daily life is about communication, um, is communicating and um, yeah, I think her voice is here to be not necessarily controversial, but just like not locked up anymore.
Yeah.
It's like she's not holding back. She has to say what she has to say. Like, don't censor her. And doesn't necessarily have to be like really polarizing and shocking,
Yeah.
but it's about like, yeah, not feeling restricted in what she needs to share about, and it might be many different things because Gemini is really kind of all over the place. It's got its finger in lots of different pies. So for her feminine kind of raw expression, she might really have an opinion on lots of different topics and interest in lots of different things. So
Mm.
um yeah, there's a bit of like fluidity to her yeah, her nature there.
Mm. Thank
Allowed
you. Yeah, no,
to.
I definitely feel Sarah is a bit of a renegade, actually.
Well, yeah, so that ties really beautifully in with the human design thing that I wanted to share.
Okay.
Um, let's go to her human design chart. Um, you see that all right?
Yeah.
So human design uses astrology, so you use the same kind of birth chart like details, and you pop it into the system and it creates this thing called a body graph. And it still uses planets. So you can see here, there's all these different glyphs here for the different planets of her astrology, but it's also coded with these numbers. And these numbers tell us so much more archetypally about, those planetary placements. And it's tied in with a really ancient divination system called the I Ching it's Chinese I Ching. And it's the book of changes. So it's kind of like every little nuance change, of the human spirit. And there's 64 of them. So again, we're getting this like breakdown from like just Pisces into like what kind of archetype within Pisces. And interestingly, her sun sign is in gate 36, and 36 is here on the solar plexus, which is our emotional center. And this is all about the dark night of the soul. It's about finding the light in the dark. It's about reaching that kind of, it's emotional breadth and depth. So, her capacity is very deep to hold, all the darkness and all the light of the planet and of her message. Um, and it's about, allowing yourself to see and not deny the darkness, but to still remember to bring, you know, your light to it in whatever way, even if it feels all doom and gloom, because it kind of does, um,
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I've got tears in my eyes. That's so
yeah,
Sarah. That is
yeah, right.
epitome to me, like of who
Yeah,
she is, really.
it is. And so anyone that has this in their chart, they have this depth about them that they really see everything and they can hold a lot emotionally. They have huge emotional capacity. And so she's a beautiful teacher of that, of, seeing the human, the humanity. And when, again, there's another system that I use called the Gene Keys, and it breaks these down into shadow energy, gift energy, and the highest frequency of it. And the shadow is crisis. And then her
Yeah.
gift is compassion. So it's about meeting people in their crisis, meeting the earth in her crisis, all of those things, and seeing crisis all around us, and still having compassion, seeing the humanity in it all. Like just seeing, like, we're all trying to do our best, and some people just don't see what we see and feel what she feels. Um, but we can still see that, like, this is a human journey that we're all on because we're all one. It's every expression of human possible on this planet. Yeah, so I thought that was cool to see the, like, you know, when we look at it on a sun sign, like, that's your life's work. That's what you're here to do. And so her life's work is to bring compassion and humanity back to the world and to
Yeah.
meet people in their crisis,
Yeah.
crisis, crisis of, all things.
Yeah.
Um, and then what else is interesting? So that was the 36 part. The 6 here also is a really dominant part of her, of the human design aspect, which is what we call the profile. And so her personality is a role model archetype.
That's brilliant. Oh my
So
God.
it's
I just
numbers
love
1 to 6.
that.
It's numbers 1 to 6. She's the end of the six. And
Yeah.
that's when you become you're not necessarily a teacher. The 5 line is the teacher. The 5 line is like the really, like, right, I've got the solutions to your problems kind of person. She's more about, actually, I have to do the work my whole life. I have to spend a whole lifetime of figuring this stuff out. And once I hit my 50s, I'm the embodiment of my teachings. And you just have to observe me in order to learn what you need to know. And so she's all about the embodiment of, her practices and her knowledge and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah, and that's really interesting because one of the practices that I teach is to sit in Sarah's presence and you just kind of absorb the energy from her. And then from that, you kind of get your answers, you get the shifts in your energy body, just from sitting in her presence. And it's because she's just being there, like emanating what it is
yep,
that you kind of need to know?
she's just being, right?
Yeah,
Just being it, all of it. And she's not perfect either, like she would be the first to admit it, that she's just, but role modeling is like, she did the work first before she ever wanted anyone to pay attention to her.
yeah,
And interestingly, role model energy goes in these, like, 3 kind of chapters. So it'd be really interesting to know, like, if we could ever find out her life story, her full life story, would be like the first chapter goes through this really trial and error phase in their life. So it's from 0 to 30, and that's the first chapter of a 6 line's life. And then they get to 30, and up until 50, which is when we go through our Chiron return. It's called the going on the roof phase, which is essentially like disengaging from the world and kind of just like sitting and observing it. So it kind of removes itself. It gets kind of aloof. And a 6 line can just kind of retreat and kind of lick their wounds and do all their big healing work away from, being on the ground so much, getting caught up in life. And then once, she's integrated and done all that deep healing work and got to know herself and what she's here to do and all of that kind of thing, she then hits that Chiron return, and that's the last kind of point for her to go, right, now it's just be that, go out back into the world. So there's these kind of 3 distinct stages of 6 line energy. So she's also the embodiment of that, of like making time to heal, making time to take yourself out of the rat race, so to speak, and look at things objectively and get a higher perspective on things, connect to your higher self, look at the world at large and see the bigger picture, and then embody all the pieces that taught you. And bring it back to the world. Like you can't be a spiritual guide that sits in an ivory tower and doesn't engage with the raw human experience. Like it's all about like reconnect to the spirit, but then take it back out to the streets
Yeah.
and, get your hands dirty and get back into it. So yeah, I thought when I saw that she was a 6 1, I was like, of course she is.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And
Um,
like for years, because like I mean, when I started channeling Sarah for other people, she would never tell them what to do. And
yes.
like I think it's probably less of a thing now than it was 20 odd years ago. But 20 odd years ago, you'd hear so many people saying, "Oh, I had a reading and my guides told me to do this and my guides told me to do that." And I would think, "Oh God, Sarah never tells anybody what to do." And they think I'm rubbish. And, because she would give them the tools and information they needed and energy adjustments to do that work themselves. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So it was always kind of what was behind the question rather than answering the question itself. And yeah, I suffered from really bad low self-esteem about that for years. And in the end, I was like, no, this is good. This is good. It's just it's a more we're coming into mastery. So this is
Yeah.
about us coming into mastery, not being told what to do like children,
Be
you
your own
know?
guru. Like we can't be told what to do. So this, especially this whole human design system, it teaches you about to be your own authority.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, she's well, the book is what we call an emotional manifesting generator. And they're here to respond to life as it happens. So that call and response kind of vibe that you have, that relationship you have with her actually works really well for, the way that she's designed, especially in the book. And your design too, because I did sneak your chart years ago when I actually sent you a message and asked you for your chart because I was interested to see what was speaking through the book. Yeah, and so I think you're a generator too, I'm a generator, and we're really built in we're in the moment people, and we need to be asked questions that we need to be asked something but feel it from our own body. So we can't just logically go, oh, someone told me to do that, so I'm gonna like that's not how we operate. That's not going to bring you into alignment and embodiment of who you are. We're getting rid of that like external authority stuff, and we're tuning into how to build a relationship with her own. So she's obviously been way showing that for yonks now, which I love. And that's she's um, even though in this chart it's got that she's an emotional manifesting generator, because this is really linked to a physical body, this red side, we can take that out and we can look at it just on a personality, energetic, spirit level. And it does change her a little bit in that she's now what we call an emotional projector. And a projector is here to guide the generators. So they're essentially a projector is someone that has less, I don't know, like hive mind kind of energy and is actually much more about like they have a very specific gift or message or way of communicating things. And when they're with you one on one, they can really like unlock things. So, like working with her individually would be really beautiful because you would get this from her. You would tune into these aspects of her. But they need to be invited as well. So, the fact that, like, you're teaching people to like connect with her, they're essentially inviting her in. And when she feels invited, she will share. But she is not going to press her message on anyone unless she is invited to.
Yeah,
So yeah, I love that. I think that's makes so much sense for her personality profile.
yeah.
And what really stands out in her personality that a lot of people will get a sense of is her channeling. So she's got this channel here, the 19 to 49 and the 23 to 43. And so the 19 to 49 is actually one of the mystical channels in human design. There's a few channels that are mystical and spiritual, and this is one of them. But you can see here there's a keynote revolution.
Absolutely. Oh my
And
God.
19, they call it approach, but the 19 is about deep sensitivity, and it's really it's linked to the new human energy. So it's about being deeply sensitive to Gaia, literally, like this is in the material, deeply sensitive to and almost like having an animist approach to life. So seeing the
Yeah,
spirit and soul in everything, even in your own home, in your own, every inanimate and animate object is all actually animate.
absolutely. Oh my
So
God,
when
yes.
you treat things like that through that lens, your whole life changes, your whole perspective changes, and the way that you move through life changes. And so having this channel, this full channel here, she's really about being more sensitive to the subtleties and the natural world and the spirit, the spiritual realms of things and the
Yeah,
spirit in. And then also knowing who is not a part of her tribe, who is not a part of that, and but awakening or connecting with um, those who are here to rebirth. So the highest frequency of this gate here is rebirth. The middle point is revolution, and the shadow. Let me remember the shadow. It is because I've got this in my chart.
what would that rebirth mean in this system?
It's There's a whole write-up in this book. Let me find it for you. The shadow is reaction, actually, just remembered.
Mm,
So stop being reactive and start being more, responding rather than reacting.
mm.
Um, Let me read you the little bit about the rebirth. The 49th city, so the city is the highest frequency, represents a huge leap in consciousness because it engenders a state of mystical divorce. This shift in perspective from the 49th shadow to the 49th gift is vast, but the dimensional shift from the gift to the city is like moving into hyperspace. The very same energy configuration within our DNA that allows human beings to kill other life forms actually carries the impetus that will give birth to our total freedom. This is the chemical connection between, so it's essentially changing us on a genetic level. You know,
Yeah, yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, because
it's,
that's what she's here to do, that shift in our DNA
yes,
kind of going up to
awakening our
another
DNA. So
level.
yeah, so it's
Yeah,
taking us to crystalline energy rather than carbon life form. It's crystalline,
yeah,
and um, through this channel, this is actually deeply linked to mammals and our relationship to animals. So the more that we can connect to and see the spirit in animals and, start to repair what we have.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just such beautiful confirmation for me because over the years, I have felt Sarah more and more in a shamanic
yes,
way.
yeah,
And of course, she don't we can't say she belongs to the Christian religion because actually she's not actually in that kind of story, but still she is being born out of Christianity. And it's not very shamanic, but
no,
Sarah is so
more. She's so much
shamanic,
more.
and that thing you say about seeing everything as consciousness. I mean, that's why I saved that date for this book being born, because that's how I feel it. I just, it's not something I believe, it's something I experience, that everything has its own energy, so it's really great to hear that. Yeah,
And it kind of feels like, even though she was the daughter of Mary and Yeshua, it's kind of like her soul was far more ancient than that being the origin.
yeah, exactly.
Like that's just one incarnation. But
Yeah,
like we see, like she's lived many incarnations because she's kind of at the last cycle, or coming into that last cycle. And she's been eons before that. And that
yeah,
would have been one of the many forms that she's taken or, been brought in through. But yeah, I think she's far more ancient than Christianity.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I think like the daughter archetype from the story that we know of her. That's so useful for what she needs to do now because it's really, really powerful archetype, the daughter archetype.
100%.
She can change the world and be a role model for the rest of
Yes.
us. But I was just thinking that even though like I have these insights every now and then I forget and I see her as a young woman. And then this morning I was sitting thinking about doing the interview today and I was looking at a picture that I have of her and I was thinking, God, she's so vast and ancient though. And here I am thinking of her like in her 20s. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Again, yeah, like to me, she's such an old, like she's crone. She's
yeah,
beyond, like she's not even in physical human form now,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and she can just be who she needs to be in whatever moment. Um, yeah, and the other part of her, I guess her main personality design is this channel called the channel of structuring. And this is bringing in the third eye to the throat. So she's deeply emotive. It's bringing this like embodied connection to the natural world, starting a revolution within, revolutionizing your connection to the natural world, to animals, to other humans, all that kind of thing. But then she's got this kind of separate aspect to her, which is very much, the third eye to the throat. So it's the channeled kind of higher consciousness stuff. And this is all about divine timing, if you will. This is about sharing things at the right time and allowing things to kind of marinate and you might get an idea or some little messages from her, like little bits and bobs. You're like, where does all this fit in? And if you were to just tell me, oh yeah, I thought about this and this and this today, and I'd be like, that's a bit weird. That doesn't make sense yet. But in 3 months' time, that last piece comes in and you're like, okay, it all makes sense. And then you share that and it's like, boom, that's genius. That is exactly, that's come from somewhere else and it brings something all together that just is clear and makes sense. It's very simple, but sometimes it takes a while for it to kind of, click in. And so she might also have that, instill that gift in others to kind of just sit in, their, what they're thinking about the world or what they want to create next or what they want to, how they understand something and be a bit confused for a while or be a little bit like, just overcomplicating life. And then one day, you sit with her and it just goes, oh, it's just so simple. We've overlooked, the most basic things. And so when I think about that, I think about even just like what the elements teach us, about breath, about grounding into the earth, about, creating, about emoting, and all of the just the Gaian elements, the elements of life. So how we overlook all those really basic things like, are you breathing properly? Are you sleeping well? Are you getting out in nature? Are you fueling your body correctly? Like all those really basic human things, a lot of us forget those and then overcomplicate it with all these other things as the solution to our problems. But a lot of the time it's very foundational.
Mm.
Um, and so, yeah, oftentimes it is the really simple messages that can get lost. But hers, are more, they're quite profound and they're the thing, they're the missing piece.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're just at the beginning of this journey. We're just at the beginning, and even in our relationship with Sarah, we're just at the beginning of just getting to know her. And I think that that journey will go on for centuries now, to be honest. I really feel that deeply. And we've sort of, I don't want to say we've come from nothing because it's not true, but it kind of is. There is a truth to that. Like when we consider the culture that we are growing up in, we are kind of coming from nothing when it comes to developing emotionally, spiritually, psychically. We are starting from ground zero, and we're doing really, really well. We are doing really, really well, and we shouldn't give ourselves a hard time for like not being like centuries into the future. But I really feel she's here also to help us develop our psychic and spiritual abilities to a much more advanced level than we could even realize at the
Absolutely.
moment. And so that speaks to me as well, this connection that you're talking about here with the throat and the third eye. I think she has a lot to do now and in the future with helping us develop there.
Yeah, so whenever she like speaks, that's the channel that's speaking. It's clarity. She speaks with clarity. She speaks with this third eye knowing. And when she's in your presence, you feel the embodied aspect, which is the you're a part of my tribe. You know, we are all one. We are connected to the spirit in all things. We are here to rebirth the world. You know, it's all there. Um, The other interesting thing that happens in human design is this thing called our incarnation cross. So it's essentially these four codes that we're imprinted with that are, you know, it's like what our mission is in life. And so hers is called the left angle cross of the plane, which is like, what the hell? Um, there's 192 or four incarnation crosses. So they're all very different, depending on when you're born. And hers is this about this. It says your life purpose is to cultivate a sense of balance and harmony between your individual needs and the needs of those around you, particularly in the realm of personal relationships. You possess a deep-seated drive to pursue personal pleasures and fulfillment, but you also recognize the importance of being part of a community and contributing to the collective. At times, you may feel torn between the desire to retreat into solitude and pursue your own individual interests and the need to engage with others and participate in a shared experience of your community. However, your unique gift lies in your ability to find and display the delicate balance between these competing impulses, bringing a sense of equilibrium and harmony to your personal relationships and social interactions. For example, you may find that you crave time alone in pursuit of creative projects or engage in self-reflection, but you also recognize the importance of maintaining close connections with loved ones and being an active participant in your community. By navigating these competing needs with grace and skill, you can create a fulfilling and rewarding life that is both personally enriching and socially meaningful.
Mm. That really speaks to me as like this book coming out at a time where this is what we need to learn as a collective, not the
Right?
individual just doing things for themselves, and not
Mhm.
as, in some cultures that are on the earth right now, everything's for the community. You don't get anything for
Yeah.
yourself. We really, and again, that's so Sarah, because it's the integrating of two things like coming together in
Yeah, so
balance
it's like
and
the
harmony.
material world, so which is denying of spirituality, and it's
Yeah,
very material focused, and it's like I want more, more, more,
yeah,
and then it's just spiritual world, which is like religions and things that it will like forget the self and be of service, but it's like hang on, there's a third option,
yeah,
the middle, the middle road where I can be spiritual and I can also be in the physical material world, and I can bring those spiritual gifts in a material way. Um, and be anchored in the earth, and respect it and all the things, right? So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And we can really see now that our communities, like, we need to be in community like
Absolutely.
never before. We need to be in community with each other.
Yep. And that's, I think the last few years have just taught us that, right? It's like
Mm.
the end of that stay in your lane and stay focused and build and conquer. It's like it's not going to work if we all take that approach. And actually, what has helped us evolve and change as a species is actually our ability to be in community. We can't survive alone. We can only survive in community.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I live in Denmark, and which is southern Scandinavia, but it's a very cold place to live and much harsher than, say, like the UK where I come from. And they have a much stronger sense of community here and supporting each other still in their governments and their politics. And I'm really, really impressed by that. I
Mm.
really love that. but I am sure it came out of the need to survive because otherwise you couldn't survive. You would just die if you were out there on your own, basically.
Yeah. Yep. And being invited in the cold and having a nice warm cup of tea and, sharing
Everybody's
blanket.
got their skills, everybody's got their talents, everybody has something to bring
Yes,
to make
exactly.
that community just the most
Right.
amazing place it can be. And, I really believe that the divine is always seeding all of us exactly what is needed on the earth at this time. So if you have a thing and you have a gift and it's the divine gave that to you and your community needs you, and the work is like finding that. So how do I get that? How do I share that? That's the challenge.
Have you heard of a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes?
I haven't, no.
Okay, Rachel, you need to listen to that. It'll,
Okay.
I mean, everyone listening to this has to listen to it. It's
Okay.
essentially about um, like highly autistic nonverbal children and their telepathic abilities. And there's case study after case study and families all over the world talking about these children with their amazing telepathy skills. And telepathy is just like the tip of the iceberg. They actually have amazing spiritual gifts. And they all connect in this thing called the Hill, which is like a community space, a community consciousness where they can all connect to and swap stories and information. And as you go through the podcast, it just gets more and more mind-blowing. But essentially,
Wow.
it really lines up beautifully with actually one of the storylines of the man who created the human design system spoke of this prophecy. And he basically says we're in this transition moment as a human, and we're moving from, Homo sapien to whatever the next, human form is.
Yeah.
But a lot of because we're in this transition period, a lot of the kids or a lot of the people who are kind of going through this genetic change are coming through as highly autistic. And so it's kind of like they're the beta tests, I guess, before it fully comes online. So it's essentially saying that the next version of humanity is going to be mostly telepathic. We're going to communicate mostly in telepathic ways. We're going to work together in hubs of people.
Yeah.
We're basically useless without other people in this next
Yeah.
way of being.
Yeah.
So all of it just makes sense that, Sarah's kind of weaving her version of that through
Yeah.
humanity
Yeah.
uh, in that.
Oh, I'll
And then,
definitely have a listen to that. I mean, my
yeah,
my yo- my
love it.
youngest son is autistic.
Oh,
Um,
you'll love it.
and but he's not normal. He's definitely verbal. He's very good at expressing himself, but he goes to a school with kids where they all basically pretty much all autistic kids, and the vibration of energy there is as someone who's sensitive to energy, it is really interesting to sit
Mhm.
and like observe. And I do feel very strongly that they are kind of the new earth.
Yeah,
Very hard for them to ground. Their energy system functions in a different way. And it's like the energy that they need to ground down into, it's not here yet. And I kind of see that as one of my jobs in because I work a lot with like new earth matrices and sort of grounding them and anchoring them, and Sarah like teaches me this stuff. It's like
Mhm.
we've really got to get this stuff here physically so that they can ground down
Yeah.
into it.
They literally talk about that in the podcast, like the autistic, because
Okay.
they learn how to like the autistic children do because they learn how to do the spelling thing, which is like pointing at boards and spelling words. So they're actually very highly intelligent, but it's kind of like an archaic form of communication for them. It's like this is really hard because I don't want to do this. And they just can get just like there was a case study of one of the kids, his gifts was to put his hand over a book and read it and just absorb all the knowledge in the book. Like crazy, but
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so essentially, like it talks about their challenges, with the body form and their spirit, and how, they don't really have. the same, connection. They'd much rather be in these other
Yes.
realms because there's
Yes.
so much more cool things going on out there.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah,
so
you're
yeah,
right.
it just kind of makes sense that like down the track, maybe the body will come online. We need these like DNA to change
Yeah.
and adjust so that it allows these spiritual kind of higher dimensional forms to sit in these bodies. Anyway, you'll love it. It'll blow your mind.
Well, I love that we've ended up on this. I mean, I didn't expect that to come up today, but it feels poignant and it feels really significant that we've ended up there. And I don't, did you want to stop the screen share
Yeah,
now?
yep.
I mean, thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. I actually felt a bit nervous before we started, and that often happens when I know like
Gonna be good.
stuff, yeah, exactly, is going to be coming in, and I'm going to be like,
Yeah,
and I really have been like that
yeah.
the whole time. I mean, tell us a bit about your work and what people like, if people want to contact you, what kind of things that you offer.
Yeah, so I'm a bit like Sarah and I do lots of different things in lots of different places. I have been creating meaningful talismans for 10, 12 years now. Um, Very much about like earth earth-based talismans, so lots of nature, lots of animals, lots of symbols and the planets and that kind of thing. So you can find me at wildertalismans.com is my website for yeah, my creations.
What kind of
Um,
things do people want them for, do you find?
so when it first started, they all basically had these different meanings, and a lot of them were more symbolic coding. And so it was like a collection of 20 words. So if they were working on gratitude, then they would wear their gratitude ring, and it would be a reminder of the thing that they're working on and calling in and teaching and learning from. And then you might get, a few years down the track when we've moved on from gratitude and now we're doing, so it's kind of like just it's a reflection of something you're journeying with in a either personal development way and in a spiritual development way.
Mm.
Um, or just a reminder of like who you are or something that you're wanting to integrate into your world. So it kind of could be either or. Um, and then in more recent years, I've woven in readings and more service-based stuff. So I actually hold moon circles in my local area. So we do lots of kind of priestessy women's circle, moon
Where are
circles.
you actually based?
I'm in Brisbane in Australia.
Brisbane, cool.
So that's another thing that we do more in person. I'm currently I think you can, I don't think I've got readings available at the moment, but you can buy human design reports on my website. So it gives you a 70-page report on your human design chart, and it's got all those words and more that I've shared on here. That's probably a like nice little way to dip your toe into the human design world. Um, and then I'm also studying animal ecology at university. So I'm also studying like environmental science. So I'm
Oh,
kind of spiritual and earth pieces coming together.
yeah,
Um,
beautiful, beautiful.
that's me. But yeah, it's Sarah Wilder underscore underscore on Instagram is probably where I hang out the most, like online.
Oh.
Find me.
Oh, thank you so much. Is there any sort of last little thought that you want to share? Something you want to say before we finish?
I think, well, I mean, in just the spirit of the conversation, like, don't be afraid if there's been a significant thing that you've birthed into this world, or, something you've created. Like, look its birth chart up and get to know it on a deeper level, right? Like, you can learn so much about that point in time, and its meaning and its essence and its spirit, because if we do see the world in a more animist lens, like. Your business has a spirit, your book has a spirit, your talisman has a spirit, and let's look at like, its birth and what it's here to do and understand it and get to know it on that more deeper level. So yeah, permission to go and do that.
Thank you so much. I think this will have really inspired a lot of people in lots of different ways. This episode, it's really been different and unusual, and I absolutely love all of that. So Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you to everybody who's been listening. Lots of love, everybody. Bye for now. Bye.